There's an odd habit we share as individuals. We pursue items, we extend, we devise, we establish objectives. And these facets hold importance, undeniably vital. Yet, someplace along the path, we begin to assume that desiring something intensely equates to evolving into the sort of individual who draws it inward. And allow me to recount a tale. Years prior, I encountered a budding business person. Let's name him Jacob. He possessed a spark within his gaze, the sort of fervor you perceive. He harbored grand aspirations. Naturally, he aimed to construct a firm that would revolutionize the globe. He scrutinized every pertinent tome, articulated every suitable sentiment. He maintained vision boards, daybreak rituals, declarations. He executed everything correctly. But here's my observation. Each discourse we engaged in revolved around the horizon, concerning his prospective actions, capabilities, forthcoming possessions. And it resonated impressively. Nevertheless, the cohort he endeavored to assemble around himself exhibited impermanence. Individuals would enlist enthusiastically and motivated, departing just as swiftly. Financiers refrained from reciprocating his communications. An element remained amiss. One day, I posed a query to him. What convictions do you currently uphold? Not your pursuit. What do you genuinely embody presently? He hesitated, and I discerned its impact upon him. He had been showcasing a future iteration of himself that remained unrealized, and those encompassing him, whether consciously or not, could perceive the disparity. He attempted to entice distinction devoid of embodying it. He craved allegiance, yet hadn't fostered confidence. He envisioned the triumphant ethos, yet still grappled with his personal apprehensions. And herein lies the verity. Individuals discern that. They discern when you're posturing, when you're endeavoring to emulate something instead of embodying it. The universe doesn't acknowledge your aspiration, it acknowledges your genuineness. We've all inhabited chambers alongside individuals who exert excessive effort. They converse more than they heed. They mention prominent figures. They cite prevalent terms. They flaunt their accomplishments. And yet, an element feels awry. An element lacks permanence. Now, juxtapose that with an individual who exudes tranquility, stability, authenticity. They might not articulate much, yet when they vocalize, everyone attends. Why? Since we lack connection with refinement, we connect with presence. And herein resides a prevalent misinterpretation. We presume if I project assurance, then individuals will repose confidence in me. However, assurance isn't what entices individuals, it's harmony. When your principles, your deeds, and your expressions align, that's when individuals gravitate. That's when confidence materializes. That's when connection transpires. Let's examine bonds, whether intimate or occupational. We assert our desire for individuals who embody honesty, allegiance, dedication. However, if we persist in concealing segments of ourselves, remaining ambiguous regarding our intents, or engaging in stratagems born of apprehension, then we're not genuinely equipped to embrace the very facets we profess to covet. We fail to entice the ideal. We entice the acquainted, the rendition of actuality we've normalized. And the inquiry isn't, do I aspire to betterment? The inquiry is, am I embodying betterment? You might aspire to a profound, meaningful bond, yet if you persist in evading challenging dialogues or safeguarding your susceptibility, you'll perpetuate attracting superficial interactions. You might aspire to a world-class cohort, yet if you persist in micromanaging or withholding commendation, you'll entice individuals who merely seek remuneration. Individuals lack attraction to flawlessness. They gravitate toward sincerity. They gravitate toward individuals cognizant of their essence, imperfections included, and who manifest with lucidity and steadfastness. Ponder upon leaders you admire, not those wielding the loftiest titles, but those who've left an imprint. Chances suggest they weren't solely visionary. They embodied authenticity. You could perceive their conviction in their endeavors. You could confide that their deeds mirrored their expressions. That transcends charisma. It embodies character. And character entices. This elucidates why genuineness transcends a mere feel-good notion. It embodies a tactical advantage. Amidst a realm inundated with clamor, exaggeration, and filters, the most captivating trait you can embody is authenticity. It's infrequent, it's disarming, and it's potent. Since when you're authentic, individuals needn't scrutinize you. They needn't decipher you. They merely sense it. That vigor emanating from an individual secure in their essence, who refrains from endeavoring to impress, yet endeavors to articulate something meaningful, that vigor remains unmistakable and compelling. Yet, herein lies the caveat. Authenticity necessitates valor. It entails relinquishing the facade. It entails being perceived prior to feeling prepared. It entails conceding your deficiency in comprehensive solutions. And that induces trepidation. Yet, it equally constitutes the singular route to genuine influence. Since when you steer with your essence and not the essence you presume others desire you to embody, you grant others authorization to reciprocate. You cease enacting a persona and commence cultivating bonds. And those bonds evolve into the bedrock of all else. Thus, upon the subsequent instance you apprehend yourself inquiring, "Why aren't the apt prospects manifesting for me?" Pause. Pose a superior query. What essence am I manifesting as? You entice what you embody, not what you covet. And that transcends punishment. It embodies an enticement to evolve into the sort of individual who spontaneously draws inward what you formerly pursued. To cease awaiting the universe to mirror back your aspirations and to commence embodying the mirror. Since ultimately, individuals don't adhere to vision proclamations. They adhere to conduct. They adhere to certitude. They adhere to individuals who embody tangible evidence of their principles. Thus, construct yourself prior to constructing your aspiration. Align yourself prior to endeavoring to entice. Align blind individuals, since the more you evolve, the less you necessitate imploring, pursuing, or persuading. The apt individuals, the apt junctures, the apt outcomes, they'll transpire not owing to your yearning, but owing to your evolution into someone they recognize. We all harbor yearnings. We all possess facets we profess to covet. Triumph, affection, reverence, acknowledgement, and we allocate considerable duration to pursuing them. However, if we exhibit genuine candor, we must confront an arduous verity. The majority among us encounter constraints not through our desires. We encounter constraints through our convictions regarding our deservedness. Allow me to recount a tale. There existed a woman I once encountered during a leadership seminar. Let's name her Penelope. Brilliant intellect, compassionate, lucid communicator. She had been employed within her establishment for nearly a decade, and everyone perceived her as a natural leader, everyone excluding herself. She consistently declined advancements, albeit subtly. She merely refrained from applying, refraining from articulating. She assured herself of her inadequacy, that another likely possessed greater tenure, that leadership scarcely aligned with her inclinations. Thus, I inquired of her, "Do you aspire to lead?" She affirmed affirmatively without hesitation. Subsequently, I inquired of her, "Do you believe you merit leadership?" That's when the pause ensued, the silence that necessitates no articulation, since it conveys all. It's facile to envision. It's more arduous to believe that envisioning aligns with your destiny. And I posit that belief, or the deficiency thereof, shapes our choices more profoundly than any other determinant. Since our intellects are wired to safeguard us from disillusionment. If, deep within, we deem ourselves unworthy of affection, we'll undermine the bond prior to its attainment of intimacy. If we surmise our incapacity for triumph, we'll procrastinate sufficiently to preclude ascertainment. Not stemming from a deficiency in aspiration, but stemming from a confusion between solace and security. It feels emotionally safer to persist in our current circumstances, notwithstanding our dissatisfaction, than to jeopardize reaching for something we lack genuine conviction in its attainability for an individual akin to ourselves. Thus, we diminish the benchmark. We modify the envisioning not to correspond with our aptitude, but to correspond with our identity. This elucidates why self-positioning assumes far greater significance than aspiration. You might articulate your aspiration to complete a marathon, yet if you persist in perceiving yourself as non-athletic, your physique will discover methods to concur with that depiction. You might articulate your aspiration to establish a thriving enterprise, yet if you conceive of yourself as an individual perpetually encountering failure, you'll persist in operating modestly. The narratives we recount to ourselves discreetly compose the script of our existence. And herein resides the most striking facet. Those narratives frequently lack origin within ourselves. They're bequeathed from childhood, from society, from individuals who projected their personal apprehensions upon us. You embody excessiveness. You embody inadequacy. Refrain from excessive ambition. Embrace realism. Minor remarks dismissed as counsel, yet they implant like seeds. And unless we exhume them, they burgeon into constraints we never sanctioned. Thus, we convey them into our bonds, into our vocations, into every judgment we render. And notwithstanding our endeavors to ascend, an element persists in drawing us backward. Not externally, but internally. Since the disparity between our aspirations and our convictions regarding our deservedness engenders friction, and that friction manifests in exceedingly tangible manners. We refrain from articulating, we refrain from negotiating, we refrain to establishing parameters, we refrain for applying for prospects. Not stemming from a deficiency in aptitude, but stemming from a segment of ourselves that persists in believing in our lack of attainment, but attainment contingent upon whose delineation. Certain among the most deserving individuals I acknowledge disqualify themselves prior to anyone else procuring the opportunity, whereas others wielding half the aptitude and doubling the audacity ascend merely owing to their conviction in their belonging. It transcends arrogance, it embodies alignment. When your internal identity aligns with your external objectives, resistance remains absent. Facets progress, discourses transition, entrances unfold. That transcends sorcery. That embodies belief metamorphosizing into conduct. When you believe in your deservingness of reverence, you conduct yourself divergently. You articulate with lucidity. You distance yourself from individuals who subject you to deficient treatment. Not stemming from animosity, but stemming from certitude. When you believe in your deservingness of fulfillment, you cease acquiescing to roles, vocations, or bonds that deplete you. You pursue challenges, you cultivate intent, you construct significance. And individuals perceive that since belief embodies contagiousness. It necessitates no vociferousness. It merely necessitates rootage, grounding. Should you discover yourself ensnared within a cycle reiterating identical patterns, enticing identical individuals, culminating in identical locales, the inquiry transcends what do I covet? It encompasses what segment of myself believes in my sole worthiness of this magnitude. You refrain from ascending to your objectives, you descend to your standards. And those standards are molded by your self-esteem. Yet herein resides the auspicious intelligence. Beliefs transcend fixity. They possess the capacity for revision. It transcends simplicity. It necessitates awareness. It necessitates candor. It necessitates confronting certain agonizing verities, yet it remains attainable. You commence by observing the voice within your consciousness, the voice that murmurs, "Who do you conceive yourself to be?" when you endeavor to attempt something novel. Observe it not with condemnation, but with inquisitiveness. Since that voice transcends your adversary, it embodies your alert mechanism. It endeavors to safeguard you from something it fails to comprehend. And your responsibility transcends silencing it. Your responsibility encompasses updating it, to instruct it that what you formerly dreaded transcends a menace presently. You execute that through undertaking minor, consistent actions, by substantiating repeatedly that you transcend your past, that you possess the capacity to accommodate more, to manage, to embody more. And gradually, your identity transitions from an individual who covets to an individual who embodies. From an individual who observes others dwelling with valor to an individual who steers with it. That transcends sorcery. That embodies belief metamorphosizing into conduct. When you believe in your deservingness of reverence, you conduct yourself divergently. You articulate with lucidity. You distance yourself from individuals who subject you to deficient treatment, not stemming from animosity, but stemming from certitude. When you believe in your deservingness of fulfillment, you cease acquiescing to roles, vocations, or bonds that deplete you. You pursue challenges, you cultivate intent, you construct significance. And individuals perceive that, since belief embodies contagiousness. It necessitates no vociferousness. It merely necessitates rootage, grounding. Should you discover yourself ensnared within a cycle reiterating identity, and the universe commences responding to that transition. Since the instant you initiate behaving as though you belong within the chamber, you initiate procuring invitations into superior chambers. Not stemming from any external alteration, but stemming from your collective traversal into a chamber and sensing something. No individual uttered a syllable. No individual necessitated utterance. The vigor recounted the narrative. You possess the capacity to sense it when someone exudes tension. You possess the capacity to sense it when someone exudes inspiration. You possess the capacity to sense it when someone conveys something onerous yet endeavors to feign their well-being. It embodies the unspoken vernacular we all comprehend yet infrequently deliberate upon, vigor, and it wields greater potency than any discourse, title, or presentation. There existed an individual I formerly collaborated with. Let's name him Arthur. On paper, he embodied everything a commendable leader should embody: intelligence, credentials, discipline, yet an oppressiveness encompassed him. Each assembly conveyed the sensation of something amiss, not within his articulation, but within his manifestation. Individuals lacked a sense of security in his proximity, not stemming from his harshness, but stemming from his vigor's guardedness, reclusiveness, as though he perpetually braced for an adverse occurrence. And herein lies what I witnessed over duration. That vigor metamorphosed into ethos. Individuals exhibited circumspection. They articulated less. They adopted a defensive stance, and the establishment gradually ceased expansion. Not stemming from the individual's deficiency in aptitude, but stemming from the atmosphere's deficiency in breathability. Juxtapose that with another individual I encountered years subsequently. Her designation was Luna. She lacked the most vociferous voice within the chamber. She lacked the most ostentatious background, yet something characterized her presence. You sensed the heightened sense of self in her proximity, as though you needn't feign. You sensed security, and that security engendered greater bravery. Individuals unveiled, concepts flowed, hazards were undertaken. Identical industry, identical predicaments, diametrically opposed outcomes. Why? Vigor. We frequently conceive of influence as charisma or assurance. However, what genuinely propels individuals embodies emotional tonality. What kind of ambiance do you cultivate upon entering a chamber? Do individuals exhibit relaxation? Do they execute? Do they gravitate inward, or do they brace themselves? Since individuals merely attend to your expressions, they respond to your disposition. Should you exude anxiety? They'll construct. Should you exude grounding? They'll settle. Should you exude authenticity? They'll unwind into their personal verity. And this holds veracity universally, transcending mere occupational contexts. Ponder upon your most intimate bonds. Ponder upon a confidant you summon when predicaments escalate. What renders them your inaugural call? It transcends their possession of comprehensive solutions. It stems from their provision of a particular presence. They refrain from inducing judgment. They refrain from endeavoring to rectify you. They merely sustain you energetically within a realm wherein you can commence recuperating or ascertaining facets autonomously. That embodies vigor. We entice our counterparts not solely in persona, but in vibration. Should you inhabit stress, you'll entice turmoil. Should you convey unresolved animosity, you'll solicit conflict. Should you radiate serene assurance, individuals will repose confidence in you even prior to comprehending you. And the verity remains, you lack the capacity for dissimulation. We all endeavor. We endeavor to behave optimistically amidst burnout. We endeavor to behave assuredly amidst terror. And occasionally, we can navigate the duration of the day through such endeavors. However, over duration, individuals perceive through the act, not through their visual perception, but through their neural apparatuses. An element will lack veracity since vigor lacks duplicity. Thus, the inquiry transcends mere articulation or execution. The deeper inquiry encompasses what vigor I convey alongside me. And that inquiry assumes greater significance than we comprehend, since vigor disseminates more swiftly than logic, more swiftly than explication, more swiftly than stratagem. You've witnessed it. One individual panics, and abruptly the entirety of the chamber spirals. One individual laughs from a locus of unadulterated elation, and even unfamiliar individuals can't suppress their grins. That exemplifies our contagiousness, which signifies that the paramount endeavor we can undertake transcends external dimensions. It encompasses internal dimensions. Should you aspire to superior leadership, govern your vigor. Should you aspire to healthier bonds, scrutinize what vigor you contribute, transcending mere reception. Should you aspire to enticing novel prospects, ensure your vigor aligns with the prospective essence you solicit. A rationale underlies the perpetual procurement of prospects by certain individuals, whereas others perceive invisibility. It transcends invariable aptitude or serendipity. Occasionally, it embodies vigor. Individuals aspire to surround themselves with individuals who exude vitality, transcending those who deplete them. And embodying someone who conveys vigor transcends vociferousness or extroversion. It embodies alignment, lucidity, candor, presence. When you possess cognizance of your essence, you obviate the necessity for posturing. Upon the completion of internal endeavors, your presence metamorphosizes into a gift for others, a grounding impetus. However, that essence of presence necessitates exertion. It entails processing your anguish to preclude its projection. It entails regulating your sentiments to preclude their dumping upon others. It entails manifesting with intent, transcending impulse. You've likely heeded the adage, you embody the average of the 5 individuals with whom you allocate the greatest duration. That holds veracity energetically as well. Encompass yourself with individuals who perpetually lament, and imminently you'll discover yourself echoing that tonality. Encompass yourself with individuals who inhabit intent, gratitude, and impetus, and you'll commence ascending without even comprehending it. Thus, should vigor embody contagiousness, what essence are you disseminating? Do you embody the individual who enters a chamber and elevates or diminishes it? Do individuals perceive a heightened sense of self in your proximity, or the converse? Do your progeny perceive enhanced security upon your entrance into the chamber, or do they brace themselves for your reactions? These transcend insignificant inquiries. These embody leadership inquiries, since ultimately no individual recalls your credentials. They recall their sentiments in your proximity. That embodies your genuine legacy. That embodies your genuine influence. Thus, upon the subsequent instance you speculate regarding the disruption in fluidity or the deficiency in engagement among individuals in the manner you anticipated, pause prior to refining the strategy or rewriting the discourse, scrutinize your vigor. Adjust there initially, since when your internal realm aligns, the external realm commences responding, and the universe observes. Not your expressions, not your curriculum vitae, but your vigor. And they'll either retreat depleted, or they'll retreat enhanced relative to their arrival, since vigor embodies contagiousness. And we've all heeded the adage, akin entices akin. It resonates simplistically, even patently. However, upon closer examination, it embodies one of the most potent forces shaping our existence. And the majority among us lack even its cognizance. There exists this pattern I've witnessed repeatedly. An individual articulates their aspiration for divergent outcomes within their existence. They aspire to superior bonds, profounder camaraderies, a more supportive cohort, a novel echelon of prospect. However, upon genuine scrutiny of their essence, transcending their articulation, an element fails to align. They harbor anticipation that the external realm will furnish them with what they've yet to cultivate internally. I recollect encountering someone, let's name him Julian, who struggled to comprehend his perpetual enticement of undependable individuals into his existence. Whether comrades, commercial associates, or even clientele, it invariably culminated identically: breached pledges, unmet anticipations, abundant vexation. And consistently, his retort remained identical: culpability. Individuals merely lack dependability. No individual embraces matters earnestly presently. However, following sufficient iterations, Julian commenced realizing that the shared denominator transcended them. It embodied him. See, Julian coveted consistency, yet he lacked consistency. He coveted individuals who followed through, yet he frequently refrained from doing so. Not in theatrical manners, merely in minor instances. He'd concur with strategies and rescind at the 11th hour. He'd commit to endeavors and vanish upon the escalation of complexity. He never harbored malevolence, yet his actions transmitted a subdued message. This embodies acceptability within my realm.
Thus, conjecture regarding the essence of individuals he enticed, individuals who mirrored that periodicity, individuals who addressed commitment in the identical manner he did, and until his modification of his standard, the cycle reiterated. That embodies the mechanics of this phenomenon. The universe reflects you back toward yourself. Should you perpetually entice drama, inquire of yourself, where do I persist in gravitating toward pandemonium? Should you exist encompassed by individuals who depreciate your duration, inquire of yourself, how frequently do I safeguard my personal parameters? Should you encounter perpetual underappreciation, inquire of yourself, have I genuinely acknowledged my personal worth or merely harbored anticipation that another will execute it on my behalf? The verity remains. Existence tends to echo the vigor you transmit, the tonality of your contemplations, the lucidity of your actions, the standard you establish regarding your treatment of yourself. Those facets metamorphose into a signal, and akin to a magnet, that signal draws inward additional instances of the identical. We entice not solely our desires, but our essence, and the intricate facet resides in its lack of invariable consciousness. You might presume your lucidity regarding your deservedness. However, your patterns will unveil your verity. You might articulate your aspiration for probity, yet should you fabricate to avoid conflict, you'll entice individuals who reciprocate. You might articulate your aspiration for allegiance, yet should you exhibit alacrity in distancing yourself upon the escalation of complexity, you'll perpetually encountering individuals who depart prematurely. The cosmos, or existence, or actuality, or whatever appellation you ascribe to it, invariably responds to your alignment, and transcending your expressions, transcending your aspirations, your disposition. That might resound confrontational, yet it embodies liberation, since it signifies that should you disapprove of what manifests, you needn't pursue, implore, or manipulate any entity or element. You merely necessitate introspection. You merely necessitate inquiring what facet within me summons this inward. And upon your attainment of candor, you commence transitioning. You initiate upholding yourself to a loftier standard. You articulate with augmented integrity. You cease tolerating conduct in others that you're no longer tolerating within yourself. And as that internal transition takes root, the external realm commences responding. Bonds evolve, certain individuals recede, others enter who resonate with enhanced alignment, enhanced expansiveness, enhanced stability. Prospects arise where they formerly remained absent, not stemming from an abrupt transformation within the universe, but stemming from your transformation, and the universe adhered. This elucidates why the most arduous endeavor embodies the imperceptible endeavor, transcending the discourse, transcending the curriculum vitae, transcending the performance, the internal recalibration. The instant you decree, I am no longer the individual who acquiesces to this echelon of reverence, or communication, or lucidity, that decree disseminates a ripple outward. You've likely sensed it previously. That instant when someone enters a chamber and you merely recognize their intolerance of absurdity, not stemming from their discourtesy, but stemming from their lucidity. They've executed the endeavor, they possess cognizance of their essence, and that cognizance alters the ambiance. That embodies magnetism. That embodies the essence of genuine enticement. It transcends allure or aesthetics or status. It embodies vigor that resonates. Akin entices akin. It elucidates why someone who esteems expansion will perceive displacements within a circle that solely disseminates rumors. It elucidates why someone who steers with integrity cannot stomach involvement within a cohort that circumvents principles. It elucidates why someone who's labored arduously to cultivate emotional intelligence commences craving profounder, calmer, more contemplative bonds. As you evolve, your realm evolves alongside you. However, a cost accompanies that evolution. It entails relinquishing facets that formerly resonated as acquainted. It entails distancing oneself from dynamics that formerly resonated as home, yet presently resonates as confinement. It entails embracing the willingness to withstand the unease of solitude prior to acquiescing to vigor that fails to correspond with your personal vigor. And that induces arduousness. That embodies the facet no individual deliberates upon. However, on the opposing periphery of that unease resides an existence wherein the individuals within your orbits necessitate no persuasion. They merely comprehend you. They align. They mirror back your expansion, transcending your afflictions. That embodies the potency of resonance. Thus, should you inhabit a non-desired locale, refrain from inquiring, what do I necessitate discovery of? Inquire, who do I necessitate becoming? Since, upon your embodiment of it,
You cease its pursuit. You inhabit it. You respire it. And subsequently, it discovers you. Akin entices akin invariably. We inhabit a realm that reveres action. We commemorate productivity, incentivize endeavor, and command hustle. We've undergone instruction that should we aspire to outcomes, triumph, connection, acknowledgement, we merely necessitate amplified action, augmented labor, amplified scrutiny of checklists, and heightened output. However, herein resides the verity the majority among individuals fail to realize until their attainment of exhaustion.
the execution of appropriate actions lacks invariable conferral of appropriate outcomes. Since individuals and existence transcend mere responsiveness to your actions, they respond to your state of existence. I recollect conversing with a proprietor named Owen, astute, seasoned, motivated. He harbored a lucid vision and a commendable product, yet something remained amiss. His cohort exhibited disengagement, patron feedback remained tepid, and revenue had plateaued. He attempted myriad strategies, restructured his marketing, updated the website, and even enlisted consultants, yet genuine transformation remained absent. Not until a discourse with a mentor did facets commence transitioning. The mentor posed a simplistic yet impactful query. Owen, who are you embodying amidst all of this? Initially, Owen lacked comprehension. I embody productivity. I embody arduous labor. The mentor shook his cranium. No, it transcends your execution. Who are you embodying? Anxious, dispersed, pressured, doubtful? Since that embodies what your cohort perceives. That embodies what your patrons discern. That embodies what emanates through every judgment you render. And that altered everything for Owen, since for the inaugural instance, he realized his execution of all appropriate actions stemmed from an inappropriate locus. He lacked leadership with lucidity. He operated stemming from apprehension. He lacked invitation of individuals into a vision. He pursued outcomes. And that vigor molded every outcome, irrespective of his intent. This embodies something the majority among us overlook. We fixate excessively upon conduct, neglecting the impact of presence. However, presence embodies totality. Ponder upon an instance wherein you entered a chamber and instantaneously sensed security, or inspiration, or uneasiness. What engendered that sensation? It transcended someone's curriculum vitae or agenda. It encompassed their mode of existence. Did they exude grounding or frenzy? Did they exude openness or guardedness? Did they exude assurance or performance? We lack invariable possession of the vernacular for it, yet we sense it. That stems from our wiring for connection. And connection transcends occurrence at the echelon of execution. It occurs at the echelon of existence. This elucidates why two individuals can articulate the identical expressions and engender diametrically opposed outcomes. One leader furnishes feedback, and the cohort senses empowerment. Another furnishes the identical feedback, and the chamber shuts down. One individual pitches a product and consummates a transaction. Another, wielding the identical discourse, procures a courteous declination. The disparity transcends the script. It resides within the vigor underlying it. We frequently underestimate the magnitude of our internal disposition's seepage into the encompassing realm. Should you inhabit a disposition of self-doubt, you might articulate all appropriate expressions, yet they'll emanate hesitantly. Should you endeavor to substantiate your worth, your tonality will convey tension. Should you disconnect from your personal principles, individuals will sense it, notwithstanding their inability to explicate why. Conversely, when you exude lucidity, alignment, and centering, individuals repose confidence in you, not solely owing to your execution, but owing to your embodiment amidst its execution. And this applies universally. Within leadership, individuals adhere to lucidity, transcending complexity. Should you embody indecisiveness, your cohort will mirror that. Should you embody valor, even amidst uncertainty, they'll coalesce behind you. Within bonds, affection transcends measurement through grandiose gestures. It's sensed in presence. You can execute all appropriate actions, dispatch gifts, devise dates, yet should you embody distraction, resentment, or emotional unavailability, your partner will sense the disconnect. Within parenting, your progeny might heed your expressions, yet they'll emulate your vigor.
Should you instruct them to embody assurance whilst perpetually criticizing yourself, they'll assimilate the questioning of their worth. Should you instruct them to evolve into who you instruct them to become whilst inhabiting perpetual stress, they'll assimilate that anxiety embodies normalcy. Who you are embodying invariably articulates more vociferously than what you are executing. Thus, how do we transition that? It commences with awareness. Observing instances wherein our actions outpace our alignment. Observing instances wherein we execute actions stemming from a locus of apprehension instead of intent. The subsequent stride encompasses presence, decelerating sufficiently to scrutinize. What am I genuinely sensing presently? What propels me? Am I operating stemming from affection or apprehension? From lucidity or insecurity? From vision or desperation? Since the vigor underlying your action embodies the outcome, you lack the capacity to feign your trajectory into meaningful influence. You lack the capacity to perform your trajectory into connection. You must embody it, and that necessitates candor. Should you experience burnout? Concede it. Should you experience trepidation? Designate it. Should you experience misalignment? Pause and re-enter. The augmentation of action transcends invariable appropriateness. Occasionally, the most potent action you can undertake embodies cessation and self-inquiry. Who am I embodying presently? And does that individual merit global adherence? Since the universe lacks the necessity for additional individuals executing appropriate actions stemming from an inappropriate locus, the universe necessitates individuals who exude anchoring, individuals who exude self-awareness, individuals whose execution stems from a locus of profound existence, of wholeness, intent, and verity. And when your existence steers your execution, everything transitions. Your expressions land divergently, your actions inspire, your presence elevates, not stemming from augmented exertion, but stemming from augmented veracity. That embodies the essence of leadership that propels individuals. That embodies the essence of vigor that engenders enduring transformation. The universe invariably responds to you, transcending your image, transcending your checklist, transcending your endeavor, to you, to the you underlying the execution. Thus, refrain from mere self-inquiry, what should I execute subsequently? Inquire, who am I embodying amidst its execution, since ultimately that embodies what molds.